Well, a very warm welcome to Falun and, of course, the Nordic World Championships, which go on, and the next medal event about to get underway, the women's skiathlon. 7.5 kilometers of classic skiing, 7.5 kilometers of freestyle, mixing both the old and the new, but no rest in between. The transition from one to the other, absolutely crucial. They have to change poles, they have to change skis, and then on their way again. Marit Bjørgen, who has already taken a gold in the sprint event, is looking to add to her number and go up to 21 as a total of the World Championship medals that she's won. She streaks ahead of everyone else, and she seems to be on very, very good form. Now, Per Elofsson is a former champion, and he can tell us something about the equipment and the skis that they use for the skiathlon. There's Robert Vaki saying skiathlon for both men and the women. They use two different types of skis, first in the classic and then in the freestyle. And he says, Per, tell us about them. Per, he said the big difference is that in the classic ski, it's got to be designed to take the athlete's weight. You don't want the central section of the ski to touch the ground to keep the grip wax off it. The skate ski is designed for spreading the weight evenly over the ski, but also it needs to have a strong enough camber to give some return, some energy return to the athlete. And as you can see, the skate ski is shorter, it's lighter, and the skating technique, as you can see there, no grip racks required. And what about the ski boots? The ski boots have developed since you were winning World Cups in this style. He says what they've done is they've produced what they call a combi boot, where they combine the stiffness of the skate ski with the lightness of the classic ski. It's soft and it's flexible in one direction, but torsionally very strong. So the skiathlon's coming up, and the women racing over a total of 15 kilometers. The men have a slightly harder day out. They'll be doing 15 of each technique, so a total of 30 today. And the fans are out in great numbers. And Sweden certainly expecting a little bit of success. They'll be looking out for Charlotte Kalla, but can anyone beat the Norwegians? Bjørgen, Johaug, Weng, all on the start list. And our commentators David Goldstrom and Mike Dixon will be back right after this.
A very good afternoon and welcome.
Welcome to Falun. The athletes just beginning to get themselves out onto the grid with just 3-4 minutes to go. And the first part of this skiathlon will be in the classic technique. The skis there are being held up by Bjørgen, making sure the clister, the grip wax, isn't getting near her clothing or touching anything. And the journey will be 7.5 kilometers, two times around a 3.75 kilometer track, and then they change skis after the total of 7.5, pick up their skating skis and finish with 7.5 of skating. Well, still warm conditions here, and there was a little fluttering of snow some 10 minutes ago, which got everyone into a panic as we see the start list there. And Marit Bjørgen, Therese Johaug, Heidi Weng, the three favourites really when you look at what they have achieved recently and in the past. But there are many contenders. Ropinen on good form at the moment. Jakobsen being brought in, with the Norwegians allowed to race 5 athletes today, having the title from Val di Fiemme 2 years ago. And further down, Keegan Randall racing today, a strong American team here, but we'll have to wait and see, not as strong in the classic. Ringwald, the Germans deciding not to race Fessel and Hermann, and saving those two key athletes, 2 players, for tomorrow's race, the sprint freestyle competition.
Mike Dixon together with as you can hear, a rather croaky
yeah, David's throat just letting him down at the moment, but we'll be back without a doubt, as they line up. And Shikaleva winning the only skiathlon we've had this season in Rybinsk back home. Therese Johaug, she won here in March and she looked convincing. She broke the field with some kilometers to go, and she'll be trying to do the same again. Marit Bjørgen, what an athlete. So relaxed, so strong.
Marit looking for a sixth success. And interestingly, Heidi Weng, twice a third place finisher in the last two major championships.
So Marit Bjørgen, final moments. Look at the tension, the focus. She wants another gold medal. Well, the 54,000, not all of them, most of them wanting Kalle to win. And it's been a long time since Kalle has been at the top in this competition. Very strong in the freestyle, not as strong in the classic. So, starters orders, World Championships, skiathlon, 58 in the field.
Yeah, and everybody set to go, but Marit Bjørgen, the big favourite.
Marit Bjørgen, we saw her form. Has David the sprint competition 2 days ago, 4 times around the incredible hills here in Falun. Many are saying, well, it's too much to take on a 15-kilometre just 2 days after that extreme output which she had to give to win the gold medal.
Bjørgen, who's been successful in 8 of her last 12 skiathlons.
Well, Bjørgen definitely, David, as you say, the athlete that all of the rest of this field will be trying to find a way, find some weakness in her performance to try and destabilize her at the top. She has been so strong in these competitions. The starter is holding them forever. Poised now for a full 45 seconds. And they're off. That was an incredibly long hold, and off they go on their journey in the ski tracks. And you can see there 5 ski tracks cut, prepared into the snow. And I must say, in difficult conditions, the organisers have done so well. It was +8 degrees yesterday, and in places there were some patches of water coming through, but they've worked a lot of the evening and night to get this track just so perfect today. Well, Marit Bjørgen, you can just, we saw her on the line, the focus, the steely concentration. And you know, I think she needs all of that today, because Johaug to her right, Heidi Weng to her left, they will be giving her a run for her money. And neither of those two competed in the sprint competition.
Interesting, Mike, that Bjørgen versus Johaug. Actually, it's Johaug who, in terms of recent skiathlon competitions, has won 4 to Bjørgen's 3.
Well, does that put Johaug in a favourable position today? I think Johaug, when it comes to the freestyle, once they complete their 7.5 here in the classic, in my book, have her as a slight favourite because of the huge climb, Murderbakken, which we'll see later in the freestyle. It's a 65-metre, almost direct climb, and her very light body weight. We know that she's the best steep hill climber in the world of female cross-country skiing. So that will be a slight advantage to her. Although, David, this course, I've been comparing the stats, if you like, from Val di Fiemme. This course, in terms of total climb, a little easier than it was 2 years ago. And look at this already, Therese Johaug testing the pace.
Yeah, I think this was always on the cards that Johaug would try to make this as tough as possible. And Johaug out there, just worth remembering that 2 years ago in Val di Fiemme, it was Norway 1, 2, 3 and 4 in this race.
There's such strength, and David, I wouldn't be surprised if that same outcome happens again today. But number 7 there wants to get in the mix, and if Kalle can keep within 20 seconds I think in the classic technique over 7.5 Ks, then I think she has a chance of destabilizing all the Norwegians. She's certainly looking the strongest. She proved that last weekend in Östersund in the freestyle technique.
The Norwegians with 5 in the race: Bjørgen, Johaug, Weng, but also you've got to factor in Jakobsen and Martin Hagen, who was runner-up in the Rebinsk skiathlon.
And Jakobsen raced here on the 11th of January. It was an FIS race, but many top names and athletes here. And Jakobsen on that day won the winning formula, so that's got to be a positive that Jakobsen is carrying into today's event. The pace after only 3 minutes 20, it's electric, it's rapid up the front, and Johaug trying already to split this field, and she's achieved just that. All strung out, not in the tight pack formation as we often see in this race. So Bjørgen, and alongside her, well, ahead of her, of course, Johaug trying to break it early.
Yeah, massive crowd of 54,000.
I like the fact, David, that the 54,000, yes, we've maybe got 20,000 in the stadium, but look at the spectators out in the forest and up Mörderbacken, as it's called, the extreme climb. There must be at least 15,000 people alongside the track there. So 4 minutes into the race, and there's no real steep tester of a hill. It's quite undulating. It's quite an easy track this early stage, but slowly winding back in towards the stadium, we then start the steeper climbs. Well, very quickly the order at the front is changing. Bjørgen trying to get to the front. And what an amazing athlete, Bjørgen, with 268 World Cup starts and 149 podiums. There's never been anything quite like it. So into their stride, and efficiency is what this classic skiing is all about. Per Ellefsen describing the skis, the match to the weight of the athlete. And underneath the boot, on the base of the ski, the sticky wax, the grip wax, just which enables them to ski up these hills. So it's the 4 red suits of the 5 Norwegians at the front. Jakobsen, Hagen, just a little behind, dropping off by some 4 seconds.
Working their way to the...
Yes, coming into the first of the long climbs. This section here, the next time round, I would imagine, we'll see a break, a surge from Johaug, bib number 2. For now, she's just testing the climb and those who can match her incredible tempo. Already, this pace has separated most of the field, just 7 at the front. And Stephanie Böhler trying to hang in there for Germany with the pace. So the first major test in terms of climbs, and the Norwegian 5 athletes certainly shining up that climb. Finland, I thought we'd seen Kerttu Niskanen and Riitta-Liisa Ropponen challenging at the sharp end. We've got Aino-Kaisa Saarinen and Parmovsky also in the race here. They are more specialized, the Finns, in the classic technique, slightly weaker in the freestyle. And this event started when, freestyle skating came into cross-country skiing in 1985, the World Championships in Seefeld, and in 5 years later, 1990, 91, it was decided to find the best skier as Kalle goes to the front and lifts the spirit, certainly here in the stadium and out in the forest. Yes, the test was it was an idea to find the best combined. Who is the best skier in classic and freestyle. So initially it was a race where you had the classic technique in the morning, and then in the afternoon the freestyle, the skating technique. For the women it was 5 in the classic, followed by 10 in freestyle. And it took another 10 years before they married both those competitions together to get now today's format, the skiathlon. Used to be called the pursuit because they were chasing after their classic competition, pursuing those ahead of them. Well, it's a massive impact already, and pace to separate 7 from the rest in the world. Viken there from Sweden. Just becoming detached, as are many in this field. So already the pace at 2.5 is beginning to hurt the rest of the field.
So the first classic rotation finished, and Theresa Johaug up there with Marit Bjørgen, Charlotte Kalla just behind, and also involved there Emma Viken for the Swedish team. Just a little bit off the pace there, Martine Hagen, who was second in Rybinsk to Chekalaiva of Russia. But as you can see, huge gaps, Mike, given that we've only travelled 3.75 kilometres.
Well, yes, clearly, David, the Norwegian pace at the front, and I'm so impressed that Kalla and, of course, Sophie Blecker have managed to survive that pace, and if they can just hang on in there. But what was interesting when we came back to the stadium, the Charlotte Kalla was leading the descent, but it seemed like the skis on the 4 Norwegians were slightly faster. They managed to absorb her, and she did have a few metres lead into the stadium, but they did manage to catch her back on the glide section. And of course, Kerttu Niskanen, so 7 in that lead group, and it's going to be a very interesting race. The 54,000 mostly Swedish fans are delighted that Charlotte Kalla is at the front, knowing how strong these Norwegians are.
Yeah, the first traffic jam of the championships earlier today. And Marit Bjørgen, well, 5 victories in a row. I mean, she won the Olympics in 2010, then the World Championships in 2011 in Oslo. Val di Fiemme defended the world title, won the Olympics last year in Sochi, and just hunting up here. I think Marit Bjørgen at the moment quite happy to be where she is and let Johaug do the work. Heidi Weng likewise, just following Charlotte Kalla. Charlotte Kalla, who was really prepared for these championships in a way that we've never seen before.
Very much. What was interesting, David, yesterday I was around the tracks a number of times, and Bjørgen came out to ski around the classic, this section, and you know, she was barely moving. She was taking it so easy. No wonder, having won the gold in the sprint competition. On the other hand, Charlotte Kalla in 3rd place there, she was testing her pace. She really was, for what seemed like 20-30 minutes, really testing her pace and putting some kickers in on the climbs in the classic. And then I saw her later on her freestyle skis, and she was backed off again, much slower.
Yeah, Kalla, who's never won a skiathlon, although she came pretty close in Sochi, carried a bit of my money as well, but lost out in the end by 1.8 seconds. And it was Marit's track craft coming into the Sochi stadium that really gave her the advantage.
And that's where Bjørgen is so dangerous. Give her 400 metres to the finish line and she can match and beat, I think, anybody. So Johaug and Kalla will have a strategy to try and break her with more than 500 to go.
Interesting there, Sophie Blecker on the right of your screen, choosing to make her own way, but you can see already how the whole of this field, 58 starters, but look at this, we're just down to 7.
Do you know, and Sophie Blecker and the FIS race here on the 11th, I know it's quite a long time ago now, but 11th of January, she's one of the few who have tested this track out as a race, as an official race, and Blecker certainly carrying that confidence that she created, gave herself that day with a 2nd position. She was 2nd to Jakobsen that day, who's in this front pack.
Interesting, the bookmakers, well, they made Marit Bjørgen 10 to 1 on. And for any of you who don't understand, that means you have to put 10 pounds on just to win one. That's how hot a favourite she is for this. Kala at 7-2, Johaug at 9-2, Weng at 22-1. And the bookmakers rarely get it wrong when it comes to Marit Bjørgen. And now looking at the chasing pack. But of course, Mike, this is so different. It's not a World Cup race. It's not about points. It's about 3 medals. And here you see, this is Martine Hagen, no Steyrer, who for many a year would have been a automatic pick for the women's skiathlon.
Well, I think her injury, David, she broke her pelvis in a couple of places. Well, this is as expected, the dynamic and the light body weight of Therese Johaug. This is the exact place that she needs to go. She knew that if she wants to carry an advantage into the freestyle onto her skating skis. It's a big decisive moment, David, if Johaug can hang on to this discomfort that she has to be going through, but Kala staying with her.
Absolutely, Kala so much improved with her classic skiing, and Bjørgen not panicking, just skiing along there with Niskanen in the blue for Finland. Sophie Bleckor a bit detached, and Heidi Weng, well, looks as if she's going to be really pleased to get to her skate skis. And of course, Mike, they're on the classic skis at the moment.
Yes, that's right. Coming up towards 6.2 kilometers in the 7.5 in total. But this is up the baby Bakken, the baby hill. And but it is, it's still a very stiff climb, not quite like Murderbakken itself. It feels like when you're skiing up this, it goes on forever. A total climb of 52 meters over this almost 400 meters distance.
And that injection of pace there by Johaug hasn't really broken up the majority of the field. And you can see the gaps opening up here behind Hagen. And really 2 completely different races going on at the moment. Martine Hagen effectively leading this second pack, and 39 seconds behind. It was a good race that she ran in Rybinsk behind Russia's Chekalaiba, but the conditions were so different. It was -16 today, it's +3, and that would have made it perhaps a little testing for 1 or 2 of the servicemen to get the preparation of the classic skis right. So we might see 1 or 2 coming out of the pack in the freestyle leg. But 39 seconds already adrift is a big margin to cut back. And just going through there, you saw Chekalaiba in that second pack. And look at the gap there.
Well, Chekalaiba looked tortured there, David. The form she showed in Rybinsk, just nothing off her normal form. But I don't think the Russians have got their ski preparation, the all-important kick wax. Well, look at Bjørgen being detached here. This is a real test. I think the sprint races, where she said she felt terrible going into the sprint races, and Bjørgen not looking anything of her former self there, being detached in 4th place.
Yeah, so Kala, who was actually watching everybody's body language now, deciding to try and make a little break of this. Johaug in 2nd place, and Jakobsen. So pleased for Jakobsen, you know, because she's had such a checkered career with injuries and has always been trying to combine her ski race career with medical studies. But this year has seen a real comeback from her. So, Mike, as we see the chasing pack, if we can call them that, the leaders now are 1,200 meters from the stadium, and maybe time to just set up the pit stop, because they're changing skis, different length of skis, different poles, different length of poles, and so efficiency counts a lot here. If Marit Bjørgen does a really efficient change, she can cut back some of that deficit really quickly.
She can, but she certainly looked like she was struggling up, which is the steepest of climbs. And of course, the lead pack will switch on to them any second. Going through their mind now is, as you say, coming into the pit stop, getting the ski poles off, taking the Velcro off, and making sure efficiently they line up against their new set of skis. So coming into the stadium now,
Charlotte Keller, who's never ever won a skiathlon. The closest she got last year in the Olympic Games, and Keller, who was 6th of the last World Championships. Good glide there from Johaug as well, as they come to the base of the hill.
This is a sensational day, David, for Sweden, for Kalle. As you say, she's never won one of these skiathlons. It's always been about the Norwegian domination, and she really is outperforming her expectations. She's not quite as good in the classic technique as she is in the freestyle. Everybody seemed to be standing up in the stadium, David. The Swedish flags flying, 24,000 within this section.
And I don't think anybody expected this early to see Astrid Jakobsen quite so prominent. Having said that, of course, she made a name for herself initially back in 2007 by winning the senior and junior world championships in sprint in the classic style. So she was always a very solid classic skier. Yes,
did you hear the cheer there when Bjørgen came in? Kalle was just leaving, exiting, as Bjørgen just came in to clip into her skis. I think that Jakobsen, Kalle, Johaug, they need to capitalise on this, and great job there from Blekur in 4th place. She needs to try and attach herself to Johaug. Bjørgen 9.8 behind. Not many people would have predicted that at this stage.
The other thing about Jakobsen is that she actually won the sprint in Rybinsk. Now that was a freestyle race, and it may not sound relevant, but it is relevant because it's all about confidence. So she's come to these championships in a really good state of mind.
She has indeed. We saw Saarinen there, the 36-year-old. You're allowed to skate in with your classic skis across the markers leading into this changeover zone. Bjørgen 9.8 behind. Veng behind her in 32. Completely lost it in the last 1.5 kilometers.
She was really struggling with her skis there as well. So I'm thinking one or two of those, Mike, actually didn't have the ideal ski preparation for the classic leg.
It's been very difficult conditions, David, and so many of the technicians trying to find the answer yesterday.
Jakobsen leads the way. Well, as you see the leading group here with Jakobsen, we've just seen a picture of Marit Bjørgen, and the body language, well, you can just see her in the background, or you might have seen her there as Jakobsen takes on some liquid, but Bjørgen doesn't look like a medalist today.
She doesn't, David. Bjørgen was saying at the press conference before the competition started, she said her plan A is to take part in all 6 competitions. I think right now she's trying to figure out her plan B, because at the moment Bjørgen going through a really difficult patch in this race, and it does take time when you switch from your classic skis into these freestyle skating skis. You really feel leaden, you feel heavy, but Kalle already setting an incredible pace, skate 2ing into the base of Morterbakken with Bjørgen in the very far distance. And that must account for about 14 seconds, I think, David. We'll see very soon.
Yeah, that camera angle actually foreshortens, and it actually makes Bjørgen look a lot closer than she actually is. And Kalle leading the 2 Norwegians at the moment. And, well, I haven't seen Bjørgen rocking with the shoulders from side to side for a very long time.
These hills, you can see how wet the snow is, David. Blekur, Sophie Blekur, you can see it in her skis. So impressed with Sophie today. What an amazing thing it is to have your championships at home. But I just wish she could have held on to Johaug when she changed over, and that would have helped her up this climb.
Yeah, Katu Niskanen also dropping off the pace here. And Kalle, what's really impressing me about Kalle, Mike, is the rhythm that she's got in her skiing. Comes to the base of the climb here, and now this is the very steep examination.
It is. David, this hill, yes, there's a slight reprieve to the left there, but it's still uphill. From the base of this hill to the top, you are climbing 67 metres. And it is all about climbing. Come on, Kalle. This is a special day for Sweden, a special day for Kalle.
Yeah, it really is at the moment. And 8.8 kilometres, so still a long way to go. And as she crests the rise there, you can see Bjørgen just actually beginning her climb.
Well, Bjørgen is going to be, I thought it might be 14 seconds. It's going to be a whole lot more than 14. Blecker just can't keep the momentum. I came up this hill 3 times yesterday. It is incredibly steep, and it rises all the way to the base of the ski jumps. When her head is down, David, we rarely see that. She is going through a lot of discomfort right now, Marit Bjørgen.
Yeah, and even though we're a long way from home, very difficult to see Bjørgen beginning to bridge that gap.
I'll tell you who is going to bridge it, Heidi Weng. How she didn't, you mentioned it, she didn't have very good classic skis. I think she was slipping, but getting back into the race now.
Yeah, really pushing on in determined fashion. 12 here. This is Lisa Ropponen, much happier on the freestyle leg. Over to the left there, that's Eva Navritova of the Czech Republic. But all of these racers really struggling. 5 up there, Liz Steven for the United States. But Charlotte Kalle cornering here. And look at the gap opening up here.
Well, David Jakobsen by the top of that rise. This is a very easy section now, David. You turn left and then there's a little bridge coming up, and you do get an opportunity to recover after that savage climb. It might allow Jakobsen back into the chase.
Now the interesting thing is, if it stays like this, which one of these two, Johaug in the red, Kalle in the white, which one of these two has got the better finishing speed? It would suggest to me that when I've seen Johaug in the past, she would be thinking that she needs to break away somewhere on the next rotation.
I think that will be Johaug's strategy. The base of Mörderbacken, that 67-metre climb, I think that's where Johaug next time round will think she could take the race. It'll be interesting, David, into the stadium soon, the leaders, to get an idea of the ski glide. But from what we've seen, the Swedish skis have been gliding so well at these competitions.
We were trying to think the other day how to give you an idea of just how tough Mörderbacken is. So for those of you who've been on the London Underground and might have passed through Waterloo Station, if you can think of the escalator which takes you up from the Bakerloo line or the Victoria line, and the angle there, if you imagine running up that, but do that 3 times for the distance.
It's at least 3 times, you're absolutely right. Now, Kalle has to ask herself, David, I think a question. Jakobsen came back into it because of the speed of her descent. I'm not sure it's the wisest strategy to be leading this now. Possibly let Johaug go ahead, but she's maybe testing them out on this second major climb.
I know it was 4 years ago, Mike, but she was the Olympic champion, or 5 years ago now, the Olympic champion in Vancouver, and 10 kilometers freestyle. This is only 7.5. This is absolutely Kalle's cup of tea.
It is, it really is. It's her strength, and her weakness was her classic, but today she turned that also into one of her strengths. Jakobsen always becoming detached on the steep climbs.
Yes, but if she closes up, she is arguably the best sprinter of these 3.
Yes, Johaug certainly has been working on her sprinting, but I would agree with that. Jakobsen has the better finish pace.
So Kalle, 27 years of age, a member of the Piteå Club. Home for her is in Sundsvall, and the Swedish spectators have been absolutely spectacular. For the first time at these championships, Mike and myself had to negotiate a traffic jam this morning coming into the competition. And Kalle now turning the screw on Johaug. And Johaug, who's got this excellent power to weight ratio, and this is Sophie Bleckor, you can see there ahead of Niskanen.
Niskanen is so strong, so powerful in the classic technique. She stayed with it, but slight weakness is her freestyle.
Well, we didn't quite see the picture of Marit Bjørgen, but that is as desperate as I've ever seen her. And Kalle, at the moment, can't get quite rid of her two Norwegians.
I think this is sensible. Kalle needs to back off. She needs to step back a little. Surely Kalle will allow Johaug to set the pace out of the stadium, or is she so inspired by the spectators here that she thinks she can take it from the front? Not always the best place to be with just one lap remaining of 3.75 kilometers. You can see the track, David, in these +3 degree temperature. It's becoming softer and softer. Kalle completely inspired. Not even thinking about backing off from the lead in this competition.
No, Kalle is very confident up front. She's not bothered at the moment by the two Norwegians behind her. She will be aware of the fact that Johaug will probably want to try to break away. And for Jakobsen, she's got the hardest test of all, because she's got to try and stay close to use her sprinting prowess right at the business end of the race.
And David, you can feel that Johaug and of course Kalle sense that Jakobsen is weaker on the climbs. Well, Heidi Weng has tried to bridge the gap, but she put so much pace into the early part of the freestyle that now it's beginning to tire up. There's Liz Steven coming through, the first of the Americans, and a little train of athletes behind her, all big names as well, with Ropinen, Rapkova, Rudqvist, Hagen. Hagen struggled today, a recent selection for the Norwegian team, 1:13 behind, but Hagen will be looking to move past the four athletes ahead of her, so a top 10, a real potential. Well, Kalle leading with 3:75 to go. Johaug right in behind her, and it's going to be an amazing match out on the tracks again.
I think what's also incredible, Mike, is the fact that you've got a world-class field here, but you've got a group of athletes who are just in a class of their own. I think the biggest shock for us is Bjørgen. We really didn't expect her to be dismissed in this way.
Not at all, and I think in a sense, David, when you look at these three athletes, they didn't take part in the sprint competition. It's almost as if you need to have a specialist sprinter so that you can't maybe take part in the sprint and then 2 days later push yourself over this 15 kilometer. And I think Bjørgen is realizing that now.
No, I understand that, Mike, but I think there's something more fundamental with Bjørgen.
Yes, well, mentioned earlier, she wasn't feeling good. She knows her body so well, and she was feeling off form leading into the sprint competition. Quite surprised that she won it. She said as each quarterfinals to semi, she felt better as each competition, each heat went through. So she found, and I think that's mainly to do with her mental strength and her depth of experience. Kalle still leading. You sense that Johaug was wanting to try and break through, and I think this is where Johaug will test out her pace, see if she can snap Kalle on this climb. There's Johaug, just as I thought, on the base of the climb. Kalle, you have to stay with it.
Yeah, this was the predicted break.
Well, Kalle's caught now wanting to find some more pace. She needs to pick this up, but her tempo has dropped massively. Johaug was just the hunter today. She was sussing out the strengths, the weaknesses, and she's found a weakness of Kalle.
Yeah, Jakobsen, though, still trying to stay with her.
It's still possible, David, that Kalle can pull something back. This hill goes on forever, and if you hit it too hard at the bottom part, you may suffer further up. But with Johaug being the best climber in the world, it's maybe not looking that possible for Kalle to pull this back.
Jakobsen Still not out of this. You can see there the taller athlete and just accelerating a little bit to try and close at the bottom of the climb. Jakobsen, if it comes to the last 100 meters, you arguably would put your money on her, but this is Johaug, and she knows in her racing brain that she mustn't give Jakobsen a chance.
She has to keep this momentum. Jakobsen still trying on survival to stay with this incredible pace. This hill, 67 meters from the base to the top of climb. Kalle, she's just dropping more and more seconds. She's still believing, David, I think, that she has a chance of a silver, possibly the bronze, but very unlikely at 11.3 behind.
To be honest, I wasn't expecting Kalle to run into that sort of trouble.
No, she looked so strong, but I think her failing earlier was the fact that she led so much of the first leg. She, in hindsight, and it's easy sitting here saying it, but her enthusiasm with 54,000 people cheering her on maybe allowed herself to get carried away in the first rotation of 375 kilometers. She's desperately trying to find something back, David. Damage limitation, she's still got her eyes ahead of her on Jakobsen and the silver medal.
Yeah, and you look at this and...
well, you can see in the background Bjørgen not at the races. Niskanen still keeping it strong.
Bjørgen 41 seconds and more off the pace. So, Johaug's now gone for it.
This is a descent, David. All that work, you can now afford some recovery, and I think Kalle is beginning to find that she has something left, that she can close this gap on Jakobsen for a silver medal. But your legs as well, having taken that huge climb, are unstable at the moment. There's a sharp left-hander coming up, then a right-hander. Here's the left. Johaug, what an athlete.
Yeah, Johaug, who was the silver medalist 2 years ago behind Marit Bjørgen. And it's amazing to think, isn't it, that Marit Bjørgen had won 5 major skiathlons in a row. But as I said right at the beginning, in the battle between Bjørgen and Johaug in recent times in skiathlons, that's including World Cups, actually the score is 4 to Johaug and 3 to Bjørgen. So Johaug with fresh legs and focused on today's race, and she's away, and barring a fall, she's not going to be caught, and she's going to become the world champion. She was out of the medals last season. And Johaug absolutely piling it on. She's not taking any chances here. She doesn't want to give any encouragement at all. And this is Johaug at her best. And Kalle has got past Jakobsen, as you suggested.
Well, I'm wondering, is it a little early? There's still this major climb. You go up, you turn to your right, then you climb within this initial climb. Has she gone too early? Look at Johaug gasping for air. Kalle's found something else, David. She's found another little burst of pace, so she's desperately trying to close Johaug.
Yeah, I think she's more trying to get away from Jakobsen. I think the problem for Kalle is that she knows that if it comes down to the last 100 meters, she could be up against it. At the moment, if Jakobsen stays close, then I think she's got a really good chance of getting back into the silver medal.
Johaug taking that bend perfectly. She took it very wide at this point, cut it very tight. Kalle, much the same.
Jakobsen getting a little detached now. Needs to close up. These climbs are really hurting Jakobsen. And remember, as she comes into the stadium, she drops down, but then there's that crucial climb up to the bridge. That's in Kalle's favour.
Yes, and Johaug said after the Olympics, David, when she came fourth in this race, she will not let that happen again. And Johaug is proving that statement right today. And And of course the family disaster that Jakobsen had last year at the Olympics, with her brother dying tragically on the opening ceremony day. She wasn't able to perform there, and I'm so pleased for Jakobsen in third at the moment.
Yeah, she herself, of course, had a terrible bicycle accident, which sidelined her as well for the best part of the season. But this is the back straight, and here is Johaug, the Swedish flags amongst the Norwegian flags. But Teresa now charging up the hill here, this 26-year-old.
Jakobsen is putting in an attack. Her skis were much faster, David, in the stadium, so she's pulled back some 20 metres.
This is what I thought would happen. And now Jakobsen just has to come round Kalle. Kalle has the tight line to the finish, but look at Jakobsen sitting in there, and she's going to go for the double poling sprint.
You just feel that Jakobsen is poised to pass Kalle if it's possible.
So Teresa Johaug, fourth in this skiathlon at the Olympic Games. She's going to take the gold medal and become the world champion for 2015. Kalle on the left, Jakobsen on the right. It's going to be the lunge, but here comes the sprinter. And Jakobsen gets there, actually a little cheekily.
Oh, Kalle, well, David, you can give no more than Kalle gave. She wanted the gold. She tried for the silver. But Johaug had a different story, a different outcome. And Jakobsen was so determined to take the silver when she realised that it wasn't going to be the gold.
Yeah, I think for Jakobsen, as you see a delighted Teresa Johaug.
Well, surprise Bjørgen isn't up there in the mix, and Bjørgen just coming in for the final few hundred metres now, but she's not going to be fourth or fifth.
Yeah, Niskanen sprinting in strongly ahead of Sophie Blecourt, and that's a real triumph for Blecourt. No medal, but that's her best ever performance. And for Astrid Jakobsen, that is her first World Championship medal since she won the sprint in 2007 in the Sapporo Dome.
It's been a long time in the waiting, David, and she was so focused for this. Just got into the team at the last stage.
And Marit will tell her story, and it'll be an interesting one to listen to. But the realities are that she was in pain all the way. Likewise for Heidi Weng. Look at these athletes. They could make no impression. These are really big gaps. To be beaten by 1 minute and 43 seconds, that is some margin. These are terrific racers. Look at Martine Hagen there, 153. Elizabeth Stephen, 145. These are really big gaps, and it just shows you the quality of Teresa Johaug. And she, usually together with Marit Bjørgen, are in a class of her own, but it's all about Johaug. Kalle gets Sweden's second medal of the championships. And Astrid Jakobsen also worth making the note, Mike, that's her first distance medal.
And what a day to put that on the table.
Well, Teresa Johaug on a real high. And when you think about what she's done, her World Championship medal run started in 2007 when Astrid Jakobsen won the sprint. She was the bronze medalist in the 30-kilometer classic, and that's when we really began to recognize that high tempo of racing. And then she was consistent but took the bronze medal in the pursuit in Oslo and the 30-kilometer mass start gold medal. And then we went to Val di Fiemme 2 years ago. She took the 10-kilometer freestyle gold medal there and was the runner-up in the skiathlon. And as for the Olympic Games last year, silver and bronze medals individually. And this is the fortune of Norway. if you haven't got Marit Bjørgen on a going day, you've got Teresa Johaug.
And Johaug, the determination, the fourth place I think last year at the Olympic Games has helped gel her here today with the desire. When the body begins to hurt, your breathing begins to scream, and everything says slow down. She just kept on fighting today, and she knew that if she had a chance on the Mörderbacken, the huge climb.
Have a look at this. There's Jakobsen on the far side, and you can see quite cheekily gets half a ski length in front, and that I think was the battle on the hill, because I think Kalle knew that she needed a bigger cushion of advantage to hold off Jakobsen.
But you must hand it to Jakobsen to be detached by 25 metres, and I feel a little for Kalle. She stood up much too early on the descent in the stadium. On the other hand, it wasn't on film, but Jakobsen stayed in the tuck position, pulled most of those 20 metres back on the glide. Kalle had stood tall to try, and she was panicking, trying to get more work rate out of herself, but it allowed Jakobsen to pull that all-important third to second place, or give her a chance. 48 just coming in. It's Berry-Ann Jones, the Canadian. Just over 5 minutes. It's a good performance. 37th position.
Keegan Randall of the United States also over 4 minutes off the pace.
Well, a lot of questions, David, will be asked, and as I said earlier, Marit Bjørgen's plan A, she didn't have a plan B. Her plan A was to take part in all 6 events, to medal if possible. Well, her plan was to medal in all 6. I think she has to think about a plan B now.
Yeah, and if you did back Teresa Johaug, then the odds were 9-2, so actually very decent odds. Marit Bjørgen was such a hot favourite. Kalle was second favourite. Jakobsen, well, you could have got anything between 6 and 9-1. But I'm really delighted for all 3 women on the podium. Of course, Charlotte Kalle, she gets a bronze to add to Stina Nielsen's silver from the sprint on Thursday. So a second medal for Sweden, but of course a third gold for Norway.
The dominant nation again so far, but well, the men's race coming up later. Cologne, we know, is on form, and many others. Vajanin, the Russian, always a good finisher in the skiathlon. But Therese had a plan today, and it was to break on second time round on Mörderbacken. And you could just see how much this gold medal means to her.
And she's an interesting racer as well, because whereas Marit Bjørgen has won the Tour de Ski this season and has wrapped up the World Cup before coming to these championships, Teresa Johaug tends to race a little bit more sparingly, and she's very much becoming a big occasion racer.
Well, very much so. And Jakobsen, well, from her disappointments last year, she's back. Heidi Weng, I think, will be a disappointment for the Norwegian selectors, down in, well, what, 7th position, but 141 behind. So all the form that she's shown all season, and coming third in the Tour de Ski, and always being up there or thereabouts in terms of podium, she's just dropped off form when it matters most.
And the one thing you don't do, although you often want to, is to blame your servicemen if the ski preparation wasn't quite right. But I think it'll be very interesting to listen to Marit and listen to Heidi about their journeys today, because they were unexpected.
Yes, very much indeed. And I think the way that Charlotte Kalle finished there, David, the fight that she gave over every millimetre, I think that the 54,000 fans here will appreciate the bronze. They realise that she could give no more. She gave everything in this race.
And she does have the 10-kilometre free next week to give her another chance of another medal, possibly a gold. But these are huge margins, Mike, when you start seeing 7 and 8 minutes. Very much.
And the tail enders coming in, Croatia coming in now, and one of the later qualifiers on day one, when we had the qualifying competition where the first 10 got through. Shung Zhu Chi in this race, it's just turned 17-year-old, and still to come in.
Oh, that's Maric from Croatia. A race which featured no less than 25 countries, but actually it's come down to the traditional two, hasn't it? Norway and Sweden.
Well, since the beginning of time, when they used to race the border guards, in the 1700s, at major championships. And I think it's the investment, David. The clubs and the development play a huge part, but the investment, the country feels good for these medals, and so many people out skiing. It is deeply embedded culturally in Swedish society and Norwegian that this is a big part of life, and they seem to always come through to take the majority of medals.
Yeah, but there's nothing the Norwegians like better than coming to Sweden.
They do indeed. Since the old days. There's Chi just crossed the line, and I think, David, at just having turned 17-year-old, that's a star in the making from China. She's aggressive, and remember, she was asked to do a 10-kilometer race on Wednesday, and then just on Saturday a 15-kilometer. She's stronger in the freestyle than she is in the classic.
So Teresa Johaug starts her World Championship campaign in perfect style. Chose the Motorbakken Hill second time around in the freestyle to make her big move. It was decisive, nobody could catch her, and then it was left to Jakobsen on the right, Kalla on the left to play cat and mouse for silver and bronze.
Well, they were treated, the spectators, to an amazing race, and very early on it was an incredible attack, mostly set by Bjørgen in the early stages, then Johaug, and then Kalle, and in the end it was Johaug and Kalle fighting for the medals. Jakobsen in there at all times, and surprisingly today Bjørgen dropping off the pace, not able to stay with it towards the end of the classic, and I just wonder if clearly the selectors will not be putting her into all of the races, and well, we'll have to wait and see how that story unfolds.
One thing that doesn't change, and that's Norway's domination.
Yes, strong and fast and furious, and the investment of skis, and on the other hand, Australia, no budget, limited backup, and of course the ability to ski down in Australia in August, September time, and they do stage FIS races there, the Birkebeiner, the Australian Birkebeiner, and many European athletes going over to get their summer training in, and I think that's sensible, combining it with New Zealand, the ski farm there in New Zealand, which also stages an FIS race. And Xanthia de Vet's coming in there.
But Mike, if you look at it from Whistler, Marit Bjørgen, Olympics of 2010, Marit Bjørgen for Norway in Oslo in 11, Bjørgen in 13, Bjørgen in 14, and now Johaug. That is Norwegian domination of the skiathlon.
Yeah, very much through and through, but how will Bjørgen take it being knocked off that mantle?
Actually, I think she's going to take it okay, and the reason is that there's clearly a set of excuses that she will no doubt explain, because that wasn't the Bjørgen we were expecting.
Kalla showing her determination throughout most of the race, and just caught out with 1.4 kilometers to go, and then over the last 5 metres where Jakobsen, the better sprinter, just managing to get past her for the silver medal. Steely determined today, throughout the day, was Jakobsen. She was determined for a medal, and it was nearly the gold. But Johaug had her plans and her strategies, and nobody can match her when it comes to steep climbing. She knew that and altered her race plan accordingly, and went like a rocket on the steepest climb to separate herself from the rest. Take the gold medal.
Yeah, plenty of time to actually take it all in and enjoy it as well. She's a superstar on the snow and a fashion icon off it.
She certainly is. And always willing to talk, David, and sign autographs, to talk to anybody. She's such a lovely person, and once you crossed that line, you saw how much this gold medal meant to her.
Yeah, World Championship gold medal number 3. Well, there you can see this massive crowd who've not only filled the stadium here, the Lunette Stadium, but all around the tracks there, and they won't be going anywhere because
we saw you push the pace.
Here's the winner.
Classic. We know you're a great skater. Was a tactic to get everyone a bit tired and then go on Murderbakken?
Yeah, I feel really good today, and I have decided that the Classic, I want to have high speed from the start, so I was a little bit tired after Classic, and then when we started skating, I have decided that, okay, now I should be back in the first lap and also out of the second lap, and then I will go in the climb in Murderbakken. And I feel when I go there that it was so easy, my body was so well. So, and then when we come to Murderbakken and I heard that I get a gap from Kalla and Astrid, I heard, oh my God, well, my legs were so stiff and I have to push and push and push. So I'm training a lot for this whole year, about 1,000 hours. So that's to reach the gold here in Falun. And of course, all these people has coming here to watch us. It's so cool. It was so amazing to go up there and yeah.
Congratulations, you're the 2015 world champion.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy.
she is so good to listen to.
Interesting that, David, 1,000 hours to get to this point today. That was last year's training. Not recommended for young athletes. You need to be strong to take that kind of, that's physical hours. Then there's the stretching and all the other training in between. And Jakobsen, silver medal.
Yeah, I think that's a personal triumph.
A triumph over many things, and you know, left out of the team early season, just qualifying later on. She was determined to get through, and I think the races in Rybinsk let the selectors realise she was still on form. She was still able to be part of this Norwegian team.
Well, I said also that freestyle victory in the sprint, that actually didn't seem relevant, but it actually was, because it gave her confidence. She knew that she had speed,
which mattered so much coming in. The final 50 metres, and Kalla just caught at the end of her attack.
So still the men's skiathlon to come. Charlotte Kalla.
She has the biggest crowd. Are we ready?
Oh, Charlotte, I take your equipment.
So the men's to come. That's the skiathlon, but to fill the gap, it'll be the replay of the men's and women's sprints. Apologies for the croaky voice. I'm off to find some honey.
Well, we'll see you again soon. The men's race starting at 2:30 local time.